Kia ora, I'm Rachel and welcome to In the Pits. Today is our first episode of season 1 and we're here with the wonderful Amelia Murray, aka Fazerdaze, and we're going to be having a chat about soft power.
Wait, was I meant to say something?
No, that was perfect.
Sorry,
It's a very busy week for you this week. You're here in Auckland to play a huge show at the Powerstation. Brand new music, brand new touring show, I guess. Mm-hmm. There's lots of things to chat about, but let's just start with the basics of how you're feeling about it.
Gulp. I'm feeling really good. I had a bit of a cry last week because I was like, this is so scary, but that's also so normal for me.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm feeling good now. It always helps to take a full day off and remind yourself of what's important, and it's just a show. But yeah, there's definitely nerves playing my biggest headline show and also in front of the hometown audience, which is honestly so supportive, but for some reason it's scarier.
Totally.
It's harder to fool your hometown audience than it is to play a show in New York, I reckon. Yeah.
Oh, for sure, because you're like, oh, maybe my English teacher might be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
My childhood best friend could be in the audience. A little bit alarming, you know?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Not to add more things on your mental list of stuff to think about when you go on the stage next week. But it's been a really interesting time for you because this is off the back of Soft Power, which is such a wonderful, now Tate-nominated album. Congratulations.
Thanks.
But it's also been a really massive period of change for you as a musician over the last, better part of the last decade, really. Mm-hmm. The last album was 7 years ago, and then you've had an EP since, but a lot of downtime and quiet time, and I guess your fans would have sort of seen it almost like disappearing time. Mm-hmm. What were you doing in that sort of interim period?
I guess, I was working on music. I was just quite stuck, and I didn't realise that because I was so creatively stuck and struggling to kind of make creative decisions was also a reflection of where I was personally. I just wasn't in a good mental space, and I wasn't in a happy environment, and so I guess I was working but also struggling to work. So I was kind of in this in-between space, and I guess you'd call it artist or writer's block, but it took me a while to really figure out that working harder wasn't the solution. Yeah, it was actually figuring out and resolving issues in my personal life so that I could work.
It's a crazy feeling, eh?
Yeah, and it took a lot of growing up to realize that and kind of reverse my life. So instead of putting music first, starting to put myself first, and so that was it. Just took me a really long time, and I think it's because I think it took me so long because I'm really stubborn, and I work really hard, and I love working hard, but there was this point where I was like, oh my goodness, working harder is going absolutely nowhere. So I had to really just take a step back and just learn to ease off a little bit, and then that's when the creativity came back. So.
It's a really interesting thing. I think it's such a hard line of work in a way that doesn't really get talked about a lot. I think musicians and people working in the industry talk about it with each other, maybe sometimes, about how gnarly the process of creating things can be. But sometimes the relationship between you as a musician and yourself as a person can get quite disconnected. And realizing that those two things actually require each other to work seems maybe obvious, but it isn't. I think so many people have had their kind of epiphanies about this. Yeah. Was there a moment for you that you realized that, or was it kind of a gradual thing where you had to appreciate over time that those two things needed to come together a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely more gradual. I feel like only now that I'm back doing music, I can actually look back and articulate it. But honestly, at the time, I was never able to say that these two things are, my personal and my music are entwined in a really unhealthy way. I was never able to articulate that or see that. It's honestly only years after that I can look back with the clarity of hindsight.
It's fitting we're here at Parachute because we're in Morningside, more or less. Yeah. That's where your last album was made, in Morningside. What does it feel like kind of being back in this space with that kind of sense of reflection?
I feel like a completely different person. Yeah. So I kind of come back and I can remember everything so vividly of like making Morningside and living here, but I feel so different that it's kind of nice. Like I have this, I guess, refreshed outlook on, what I learned in this area and this kind of, there's a lot of music industry in this particular area. And I guess I come back and feel, just removed from that era of my life in a really nice way, in the sense that I feel like I've moved on so far from that and done my best to let go of the good and bad that I experienced, and just kind of, just focusing on, doing my best to focus on creating a new life rather than dwelling in old stuff I was struggling with.
Like you said, growing up is like quite a nice term for it. It's like a really simple term, but it actually does kind of encapsulate it a lot. Like, I love Morningside personally because I think it captures a time for me as well where I can look back and be like, that feels like a very different version of myself that soundtracked. And I can imagine even for you that must be quite a strange experience. If you look at Morningside, how do you kind of see it? Like, what is the narrative around that for you as a record?
I think innocence really comes to mind when I listen to that. There's something really pure about, I think, some of the emotions I felt on that record, and I think that's almost the beauty in a lot of it, is there's this real uncertainty within myself, and I feel really proud of capturing that on a record. Yeah, so I guess just innocence and anxiety of just growing up, but like not trusting in that process or something. There's just a lot of early adulthood unease in that.
Totally, yeah. And soft power now feels like a very natural step into a different era of life. There is this like quiet confidence to it, which I really love, and there's a really like a strong sense of groundedness to the record. What was the kind of experience of building soft power like for you?
Yeah, well, I guess I was searching for that groundedness, and I was searching for, strength and confidence, which while I was making it, I didn't have those feelings. So that soft power is very like a striving record for me. It's like I'm really trying, and that was definitely the journey of making it. It's like trying and forcing, and then almost trusting is the way it came together, and learning how to trust is kind of the arc of that record. And then I guess also having grown up a bit more and figuring out who I am, and as someone, in my late 20s by the time I think I'd finished it, and now in my early 30s. There's a little bit more darkness, I think, to this record than Morningside. I think I just wanted to almost embrace the darker elements of life and my own psyche that I think I've been trying to suppress for so long. And I think soft power was actually just like allowing those things to breathe a lot more than I think I had previously. And letting the darkness breathe allowed me to move forwards and finish the music. And that was part of the journey of making it, is embracing the stuff you don't want to look at.
You're down in Ōtautahi now, which is my hometown, and Callum's hometown, and Annabel's hometown.
Wow.
Not Zoe's hometown, sorry.
Sorry.
And it's really interesting for me that's a space that you found yourself now, because it's a really different type of environment to be in. What was it that drew you down to Christchurch in the first place?
I mean, I think the affordability of it. I felt like maybe I was in Auckland, I was making decisions that weren't necessarily that great for me, just because I couldn't really afford something better. And then I realized just moving somewhere cheaper gave me a sense of independence and autonomy and space, and kind of an environment to build a life on my own terms, which I guess I was just struggling to in Auckland, at being an artist and the financial realities of that. And so I guess, I think just having a blank canvas was what I was really craving. And I think I just needed to take a step back from some of the things I'd been through up here. And a lot of the music industry is here, and it's quite nice to be able to step out of it, and
Yes.
step back in, and kind of do that on my own rhythm rather than kind of have it around me all the time. And I already struggle with working too much, and it's nice in Christchurch I can really just be Amelia and sort of be very anonymous, and I'm liking it down there.
Yeah, we were down in Christchurch like a couple of weekends ago for Port Noise Festival, and I'm always struck by the landscape there is so fundamentally different to Auckland. You actually have a very different sight line when you're in the city. It's flat, there's one set of hills. Here you've got undulating volcanoes everywhere. There's something really different about the headspace you get into down there, I think, as well. Like there is a kind of a calmness to the flatness or something. I don't know if this is just me projecting, but
no, I feel the same, and I don't even really know how to articulate that different feeling you get down there.
Yeah.
You can always see the Port Hills, and that's always your navigation reference point.
Yeah.
And I kind of like the gridded streets. I made a joke to my friend. I was like, Christchurch is the LA of New Zealand, which is not true at all, except for maybe the streets being gridded. But I guess just having this open space or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I love biking, so I feel very free when I'm biking around Christchurch, and there's no hills. I like the freedom of that.
Yeah, it is really nice. It's an interesting space because a lot of people we've been talking to have also been reflecting on how it's actually affordable to live and work as an artist down there, and that makes the scene quite different down there as well, because people's pressures on their music making aren't the same necessarily as when they're in a space like Auckland. What was the actual writing space for you like, making Soft Power? Was it written at home? Was it written on the road? What was that kind of timeline like?
Yeah, it was written so slowly over so many years, and I did so much of the writing while I was still here in Auckland. And then, as like I said earlier, I just couldn't, I just got really stuck, and I couldn't make creative decisions beyond a certain maybe 60% point. And so then I had written so much of the skeleton of the record in Auckland, and then when I moved to Christchurch, I did that last 40%, I reckon. Finalising lyrics and writing a lot of the lyrics, and doing a lot of the recording from home. So it was so patchy. I kind of get a burst of clarity and go really hard, and then get really stuck and anxious and feel really overwhelmed by it and feel really alone with it. And then it was so messy. I'm glad no one saw me making it, because it was a very ugly process, but one that I really needed to go through.
What were some of the things that you feel like you've learned from the process of making this record? Because I'm imagining you probably have thoughts ahead to what might be next, not in a go kind of way necessarily, but what kind of learnings, I guess, have you taken from the process it made for this record?
I guess learning to surround myself with the right people. That can make such a difference to my mental headspace and my creative headspace, when I just have people that are cheering me on. As simple as that sounds, that just want the best for me. And that's been really important, just having great people in my corner, and allowing myself that too. I guess also just I think also I've learnt to work less hard. I'm trying to learn that.
What does that look like for you? What does working less hard look like? Because as someone who also is if you're not doing 100% all of the time, are you doing anything at all? Is a headspace that's hard to tap out of. So
totally,
please share your tips.
I'm still trying to figure it out myself, but I think especially with the creativity, allowing it to come and creating space for it to come, as opposed to kind of grinding it out. I feel like there are times, maybe towards the last 5%, where it is kind of just grind.
A grind,
but I think maybe earlier on in the process, just making space for the ideas to come, and trusting that the ideas will come, as opposed to forcing them. It's a really fine balance. And so I guess I'm just trying to learn to trust in the bigger forces than then expect myself to do everything.
Totally.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was something else, something I learned. I mean, and also probably just go more gentle on myself as well, which ties into that last point too. Like, everything's working out, like, and kind of just trusting in that and having a little bit more faith in the big picture.
Yeah. You have a really interesting relationship with the fans of your music. It's a really lovely, earnest, super enthusiastic community that has got behind your music like all over the world. What is that like for you? Does it still feel surreal? Because you've obviously played huge like shows internationally, so those faces are real to you now. But like, it is kind of a strange disconnect, I imagine, when you've made something in a room, a small room, written maybe in your bedroom, recorded in a little studio, and then suddenly it's like out in the world. Does that still feel quite surreal or weird, or how do you process that?
I mean, yeah, it definitely feels surreal. It's really hard to allow that love in. Like, I find it really going to the merch desk and meeting people that know all the songs and you know, bought tickets and bought all the merch. It's like, it's so overwhelming for me. It means so much. Like, I can't even. Yeah, it's really special, and it's been a real big journey learning to, I guess, accept that. Like, let myself enjoy that, because it means so much to me that people. Sorry.
No, not at all.
Just I pay attention to it and listen to it and get into it, because the process can be so grueling that when it kind of works out and it clicks and people, it enriches people's lives, it's just everything I kind of work for. So,
But what a beautiful thing to be able to like have it connect with a community, and like a community that's sort of intangible across the globe until they're suddenly there in your shows with your t-shirts and your posters, you know?
Yeah. No, it's so special. I don't take it for granted. But I guess just like on that whole, like the community of it, I guess something I'm always doing my best to do is make a safe space at the Fazerdaze shows that like everyone can feel like they can just be them, and like they don't have to. And I guess that's something I'm really trying to build for myself and build for the people that come to the shows, is like there's just kind of a real sense of I'm trying to create this, but just a sense of being and a sense of comfort and emotional safety, which like I think I've found really hard to find growing up, and some of the things I went through. And so it's like, how can I turn that into creating a space that feels much more expansive and safe and comfortable for people.
I think it works. I think that that's something that I certainly feel with the way you talk to your audience is not necessarily the way that all musicians speak. The kind of fourth wall feels less present than in some other spaces, and that's not a bad thing when other musicians have that wall, because it is necessary sometimes. But I think you're really good at making the listener or the person who's experiencing your music feel very much included in the conversation, which is quite a hard thing to do. You're really good at it, you know?
Thanks.
Yeah.
I hope so. It's a real balance though between trying to build a world that's immersive and telling this story and this visual space that I'm trying to bring people into, but also not losing the human element and I'm always trying to find that balance, and sometimes I go too far either way, but I guess it's just course correction and figuring it out as I go.
Totally, it is still like all a learning process. This gig that's happening this week does feel like a really big like point in a calendar for you, because as you said, biggest headline show in a hometown space for you. Yeah. Also, you've been doing a lot of this with a very tiny team, which maybe surprises some people to find out. Like audiences wouldn't know because they're just here to see you play music or whatever, but it is like this whole business that you're managing yourself, that you're running yourself. What was the decision for you to step into kind of a self-managed, self-directed space on the business side of your music things, as well as the creative side, which I guess has always kind of been something that you as Amelia has been in charge of the creative process. But what was the thing or the reason for stepping into that in the business side too?
Yeah, well, I guess necessity and trying to find a way to make this project financially sustainable.
Yeah.
And having gone through the music industry and had so many tumbles and expensive decisions and it's been really brutal navigating it, that I guess for the moment I'm honestly just trying to pace myself and for the most part work with friends who have my back 1,000% and vice versa, and that has been just a much more grounding space, and also being able to pay my friends is great and feels really good. And so I guess I'm just trying something. It might be temporary, but I'm trying to, again, to go reference back to earlier in our interview, like try to make this project work for Amelia as opposed to like Amelia grinding herself to the ground
for Fazerdaze.
And I'm really just trying to break out of the structures that really didn't serve me and were really hard on my mental health, and also the finances were just not making sense. And so I'm just trying to pivot and be agile and have my freedom as an artist. And so I'm just, trying out starting my own little record label and having friends come on board to help with various projects. And so I guess I've gone from being like really fixed into things and feeling really, I guess, under pressure and anxious all the time to like having a little bit more control and flexibility. And I'll see how it goes. I mean, it's definitely more work and more decisions, but I feel more calm when I wake up in the morning, which is everything to me. And there were a couple years where I would just wake up really anxious and like things were going well externally, but I was just feeling so on edge for meetings and calls and messages, and I'm trying to restructure that and make myself feel good so I can keep going. Yeah,
I think that's a great litmus test of if something is feeling right, is if you're waking up and not feeling like you have to fight the wall for whatever it is,
totally.
I think that also sometimes you do need to try things out to the different extremes to see where inside that spectrum actually feels comfortable or right for you.
Absolutely.
And that point might shift as well, because it might work for a while and then you realise this isn't working anymore, I needed a little bit more help, or this was more interesting in this way. But giving yourself the freedom to try those out is like probably a very important thing for Amelia and Fazerdaze.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I do feel like maybe now I'm on the other extreme of like maybe taking on too much myself, but again, it's like that course correction and just taking all the good bits from each and trying to build the path ahead of me.
Totally, It kind of goes back to what we were talking about, feeling like I think you have a very generous relationship with your fans. I also think that I sense quite a strong commitment to making it a little bit easier for the next Amelia writing Morningside at the moment to kind of come through that space. Is that something that you think about when you're working these decisions out for your own project, like how maybe it's going to help somebody else coming up the line as well?
I mean, as in like showing a new path. I think so, because I think for so long I felt the way to be successful is you have to have this structure, and I tried that and I was so disheartened by it and like almost gave up, and I do want to try something else, and even if I fail, it's like hopefully it's a good sign to some other artist. Like you can actually, there are other options. You don't have to go down that route. And it just has to work for you. Like otherwise it will all crumble, like it's the house of cards, it will all crumble. So you do have to be, you have to put yourself first, even when maybe people might frame that as being selfish or something, but it's actually for the good of the longevity of the project and the jobs that you create around you to take care of yourself, and then you can take care of others. So I'm trying to, I mean, it's feeling good right now, and hopefully it does show other artists that you can put on a show at the Powerstation as an independent artist. And
which is crazy in an awesome way, you know? I do think that's an amazing and exciting, scary, I imagine, as well, but like awesome thing to be doing. Yeah. But what's next? Like, what are you sort of looking towards? You've obviously got some really, like, you're going to be touring with the Pixies this year, which is extremely cool. But what's kind of in the future for you? What are you kind of looking down the line at the moment? Maybe like straight ahead or just out the corner of your eye?
So after this show, I'm going to take a rest. I'm so excited for it. And yeah, I've got, I think, 4 or 5 months between the show and the next shows with Pixies in North America. And so, yeah, I guess I really just want to get back into making more music every day and getting back into a creative little bubble. And there is I find it kind of hard to write when I have shows looming. So I don't know why, but I'm trying to get better at that. But I'm just excited to have, a little bit more time off and also just rest. I feel like the last maybe 3 years of Fazerdaze, I've been really working to rebuild the project and get my name back out there. And and I've been doing a lot of touring and living out of suitcases for that time. And
which is exhausting.
It's super exhausting. So I'm just gonna try to rest and not work too hard. And
hoon around on your bike and Christchurch for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Awesome. Well, can't wait for next week or this Saturday. If you're watching at home right now, you should buy a ticket. I don't know what I'm doing there, but thank you, Amelia, for chatting with us in the pit today.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks for having me.